My name is Alan Lovett, and I'm a past president of the Chamber of Commerce, Brantford-Brant. Our chamber is pleased to be the presenting community producer of this broadcast in partnership with Rogers TV. This evening's debate features the candidates running for Ward 5. Our city is facing a number of challenges, and bold action and strategic measures are required to ensure our long-term success as a community. I'd like to congratulate all the candidates for their commitment to our community, and we're looking forward to our debate tonight. The candidates we have with us tonight are Dale Beamer, Ian Carson, Jeff Goreski, Catherine Kissinger, Mark Littell, John O'Neill, Dustin Starchuk, David Swanson, Brian Van Tilborg, and Joshua Wall. Michael Peterson couldn't be with us tonight. Tonight our panelists are Sandra Voss, a director with the Chamber of Commerce, Brantford-Brant, Ben Strasser, president of the Young Millennials Network Group, and our timer tonight is Charlene Nicholson, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make their opening remarks. The order of speaking tonight was done by a random draw before tonight's program. The panelists, after the opening questions, will alternate in posing questions. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to each question with 90-second limit. In the instance of a candidate making a specific and targeted reference to another candidate in the room tonight, that candidate will be allowed a 45-second rebuttal at the discretion of the moderator. The timekeeper will indicate when you've got 15 seconds remaining and when the maximum timer has been reached, at which time your microphones will be turned off. In the case of any rulings or challenges, the moderator's ruling is final. I'd like the candidates to adhere to the agreed upon format and exercise professional decorum throughout this debate. I'd like to thank you again for your commitment to our community, wish you all the best of luck, and open it up for the candidates' opening remarks. Our first candidate to speak tonight will be Catherine Kissinger. Catherine.
First, I would like to thank Dave Newman for his many years of exemplary service to the community at many levels of politics, and I hope to see his picture on the Wall of Fame here at City Hall in the near future. I may not be well known to you, the residents of Ward 5 right now. However, my experience is relevant and my skill set is very well suited to being your representative on City Council. I have been working towards this goal all of my life. I bring the voices and the interests of many groups to this table in the hopes that we can all finally live at peace and be prosperous. I encourage you to listen carefully to the answers given to the questions this evening, and you will see why I feel that I'm the best choice for you for Ward 5 for this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Next, we'll have David Swanson. David?
Thank you. David Swanson, I'm born and raised here. There are two main issues we need to do as a community. We need to raise money and deal with an interesting spending habit. Employment. Recycling is currently picked up and shipped here to China. That's no longer happening. There's a great opportunity for Brantford. We have our tire recycling plant, our Triple M metal, our landfill is open, and it's a valuable asset. So that's a major play. We are close to big exporters like Toronto, Montreal, Hamilton, and maybe even New York City. We'll see. Anyway, second half, sports facilities. We have spent around and projected to spend very close to $200 million in the next few years. I captained a couple of teams at BCI. We were very dominant, very 600% win rate, and you don't need $200 million on lavish athletics. Good teams and good players make teams. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, John O'Neill. John?
The chamber for this event. Of course, my name is John O'Neill. I grew up in Eagle Place. My parents still occupy the house that I grew up in. When I was 21, I opened Brant Stereo downtown. That will be 45 years ago Saturday when I opened. So it's 66 years connection to the south end of the city. I'm not a politician, but what I learned on July 24th motivated me to put my name into the race, and it had to do with the pumping station on Fifth Ave. The information being put out to the chamber that it was a something that was discovered recently I found wasn't accurate. Leadership was told, I think, 7 or 8 years ago about this. So I'm running out of time, but that got me going, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, John. Next, Brian Van Tilborg. Brian?
Hello, my name is Brian Van Tilburg, and I am your Ward 5 councillor. I have thoroughly enjoyed my first term on council, from securing federal and municipal dollars for Mohawk Lake to seeing the completion of Kiwanis Field and the completion of the Mohawk Greenwich Brownfield cleanup. As a working class councillor and a shift worker like many of you who live in the ward, I said no to many expensive projects like the purchase of the post office. I am proud of bringing Go Transit, community gardens, and the creation of the Mohawk Lake District to our ward. I believe in making our city more accessible for all, whether it's an upgraded lift for modern wheelchairs to allowing those with accessible license plates the ability to repark in the downtown. I am very proud of the Accessibility Committee. It's the committee that I enjoy the most. I believe in living within our means. It's how I live, and it's how I make decisions on council. I look at a program, a purchase, or a budget cut through the lens of how it affects your quality of life. Know that I am looking out for your interests, whether you are a renter, a homeowner, or even a senior on a fixed income.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we've got Mark Littell. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Rogers and the Chamber for putting this event together and the volunteers. I'd like to echo Catherine's remarks on recognizing the long service that Councillor Newman has put forward. I've lived in the area of all my life, and I've lived in Brantford for 40 years in the downtown core area. I'm committed to the city, raising 3 young sons. I have 2 grandchildren that live in the city. I've been quite active with my own business in the city. I still operate my own business within the area. I've had the privilege of serving on council for 4 years from 2006 to 2010. I'm a past chair of the Brantford Police Services Board, past chair of Habitat for Humanity, past chair of Christmas Baskets, the Food Bank Airport Commission. So I like giving back to the community. And I'm running because thank you. I'm running because I want to give back to the community some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we've got Jeff Gorski. Jeff?
Thank you very much. My name is Jeff Goreski. I am a fraud and forensic investigator. That's what I do for a living. In 1981, my late wife and late son and I enjoyed our first home on Erie Avenue, then Burwell Street. Unfortunately, due to illness, we had to get them closer to palliative care. I never lost touch with Brantford. I've been involved in a number of charities, and it was now time to come home. And after coming home, then I've decided now that I can benefit Ward 5, where it all started for me, and help the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, we have Dustin Starchuk. Dustin?
Thank you, Chamber and Rogers and fellow candidates for celebrating democracy today with me. It's fantastic. One thing I do want to say is clearly it shows that there's some issues and some concerns in Ward 5 for this many people to be running to move to move forward. So I only have 60 seconds here. So what I would like is I urge everybody to check out my 5-star platform of the issues that I would like to address, which is being public safety, transportation, health and wellness, economic growth, and community engagement. You can check that out at votestarchuck.ca. And I thank you, and I hope that what you see from me today in terms of what I say to these answers are going to provide a lot of value to this community. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Dustin. Next, we have Ian Carson. Ian?
Hi, thank you to all people attending and people in the audience. My name is Ian Carson. I live on Brock Street. I've lived there for 21 years. My civic service started when my kids went to school, and I started seeing the inequities of what was in the community. So served on parent council, the accommodation review of St. Mary's, where they ended up closing us, even though the community said 17-1 that they wanted to keep it. Then it was the Brantford Hub Initiative, which is in Major B and in Eagle Place at Doug Snooks, and now in Homedale and downtown as well. Then the Healthy Brantford, and then Stephen Boudreau of Eagle Place came into my life and entrusted Recovery Theatre to me. Anyway, at that point, we needed a renewed energy at City Hall when David Newman was starting to retire, and I thank you for a chance to run.
Thank you, Ian. Next, we have Joshua Wall. Joshua?
My name is Joshua Wall, and I intend to be your next elected official for Ward 5. I'm an experienced public speaker, published writer, accomplished director, enthusiastic activist, and a recognized ambassador for our community. As councillor, I will advocate your concerns to the public, at council and beyond. I excel in creative outside-the-box thinking, and I have built a reputation based upon results. My resume speaks for itself. I'm the secretary of the board for the Downtown Brantford BIA, and I'm chair of its marketing committee. I serve on the City of Brantford Heritage Committee and a number of local nonprofit boards, and I'm the vice president of the Kinsman Club of Brantford. I've taken part in fundraising tens of thousands of dollars for the community, and I'm a founding member of the community organizations of Brantford-Brant. I am no stranger to the challenges Ward 5 faces. I grew up here and work every day to make it a better place to call home. It would be my honor to be your voice and the voice of Ward 5 on council. I'm ready to get to work.
Thank you, Joshua. Next, we've got Dale Beamer. Dale?
Hi, I'm Dale Beamer, and I'm running for Ward 5 council. I lived in the ward all my life, and I have my business in Ward 5. Sorry about my throat's got a little cold. The reason why I started thinking about running in the first place is at my business last year, my mother got assaulted, and it just opened my eyes to start watching all the criminal activity and crimes that are actually going on in our ward. Like the needles that were even going door to door, I found the consistencies. The voters are showing me on their driveways and all that from the druggies. And that was my main reason for going there, is I want a safer neighborhood for my kids to grow up in. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, everybody, for your opening remarks. We'll now move into the questions. Our first question tonight is going to come from Sandra Voss. And again, as a reminder, we'll start with David Swanson with the responses. Sandra.
Percent of the respondents said they feel only somewhat or not at all supported by the municipality in the operation of their business. What changes would you propose to create a more business-friendly and cooperative environment?
There we go.
Take it away, David.
I would always make sure my door is open. I've always done my best to make sure of that. I find that having operated a local business down here in the downtown up until 2013, there's definitely a disconnect that happens, but it is mainly to do with businesses needing to get things done, permits taking a long time to do, and maybe there's too many of them. So that would be one definitive difference you would see in me, is I would definitely work to get government out of the way and make sure when we can work together that it happens quickly and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, we'll move to John O'Neill. John?
We need to streamline the red tape in City Hall for developers and businesses in general, show some more flexibility, improve the business tax ratio, work for zero tax increases, work with the skill force to improve job training and maybe develop a stronger skill-based workforce for the community for the needs of the industry. I think that's about all I can do in the short period of time I have. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we'll move to Brian Van Tilburg. Brian?
Oh, that's a very good question, and we have been doing some, and there's still plenty more to do. One of the things that we did over my term was we created an infill committee, and the infill committee was designed to help streamline the process for developers, to have a flow chart where they can go through, where they weren't getting stopped at this department and that department because they were having to go to too many different steps to too many different places. So this was more like a very good flow chart checklist. That said, I would like to comment on John O'Neill's part on training. We put forward a proposal to bring Six Nations Polytech into Brantford when the Mohawk College pulled out. And that brought us into trades. So there's now a trades and skills developer coordinator at Six Nations Polytech. Right now, if you're talking to businesses, they have a skills shortage like you cannot believe. And I get that call more and more every day. And we shouldn't be having to bring in temporary foreign workers to fulfill the needs of our local community when we can do it all right here.
Thank you, Brian. Mark Littell.
Thank you, Chairman. I love it. It would be interesting to know what the 69% comprised of, but I assume it's taxes, and I think our taxes are completely out of control, and we need to have a look at that. It's one of my main platforms that are on there. From a business-friendly perspective, I'm hearing from developers and other people that it takes forever to get permits, that we have to wait in line, and we need to streamline that process. So I think whatever we can do from an economic development perspective, from working with the Chamber of Commerce, specifically any members, to find out what their concerns are, would be for the route for us to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we'll move to Jeff Goreski. Jeff.
Thank you very much. I echo what Mark said. One of the things that's interesting is of that 69%, what is that made up of? Is that businesses not being able to get to the customer base, not being able to get the revenue? And is it a combination of people trying to come in and not being able to work through government to get the proper permits and the proper infrastructure set up? I think those are very important areas that need to be addressed. Everything from parking to infrastructure, so that current businesses have the ability to generate revenue, have customers conveniently access their locations and spend within the boundaries, as well, definitely ensuring that we have the infrastructure and the means to get new progressive businesses in to the community.
Thanks, Jeff. Dustin Starchuk. Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an echo to an echo, but no, I think what I would really want to figure out is 69% is, I don't know, last time I checked, that is a significant failure. So I was trying to figure out, to have something of numbers of that extreme and that high, is to figure out where's the communication breakdown to have that type of failure, to figure out what those needs are. So you definitely need to have a better communication chain when it comes to this, to figure out how those numbers actually even exist in the first place. You know, I think that when we talk about skills, we've great facilities here to train people, but what are we doing to keep people here? I think that's the thing that we need to really address. So of those business needs to have migrant workers or what have you, even if we are training people here in terms of skills trade, we don't have the transportation needs or even the infrastructure to keep them here, or affordable housing, which is starting to get even worse as people are going to start to get priced out of here pretty soon as well, right? So I think those are the types of things that we need to look at, listen to the needs of the people, and to figure out why that 69% is there to begin with. So thanks.
Thank you, Dustin. We'll move to Ian Carson. Ian?
First thing we want to do is find out what that 69 is, what part of what the city's not doing is not working for them. As a business owner, the time it takes to get a permit is too long. Usually the building department basically says no, and then you have to find out how to get around it. We need a building department that will actually say, you can't do it right now, but this is how we could make it work for you. And then, of course, the skill training, we need more skilled people for doing welding and all that for our area, and more and more educational programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. Joshua Wall. Josh.
Okay, so I'd like to speak from personal experience. As chair of the marketing committee, it's my responsibility to speak with the business owners, specifically in downtown, which is a large part of Ward 5, and find out what their concerns are and represent their concerns to the public. So I feel like it's communication, which has been said here around this table. If 69% of the businesses in Brantford are upset with the city, you need to go and speak with them by working very closely with something like the Chamber of Commerce is a great start. We also reach out to the local businesses in the downtown. There's not a single business owner in the downtown that doesn't know me by name. I've introduced myself, and if I was a councillor, specifically the councillor of Ward 5, there wouldn't be a business in town in Ward 5 that didn't know who I was and wouldn't have my cell phone. If they have a concern or they're wondering what the process is for a particular permit, or they want to get a question from city staff, I'm going to pick up my phone, I'm going to call, I'm going to get them an answer, and I'm going to call them back. And if they're not satisfied, I'm going to push harder to get an answer. I'm not going to be able to make everybody happy, and business owners are going to have a lot of needs and a lot of wants. And of course, like was said here already, there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of work that has to be done to be able to support some of the businesses that are going to be moving to Brantford in the near future. But if I was the councillor of Ward 5, I'll say it again, my responsibility would be to the constituents, the residents, as well as the business owners, to make sure their concerns are brought forth to City Hall and met. Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer. Dale.
Hi, 69% is quite high. But that's also meaning that they're not talking to the councillors and they're talking more to the chambers, which chambers and the councillors should actually team up, like talk together so we can actually work out what's the problem is, because 69% we don't know what the problem is. And that's my only solution to that, is just talking with the businesses so we know what's going on.
Thank you, Dale. Catherine Kissinger. Catherine.
Thank you, Alan. So I would start by improving the communications with businesses in the city and reviewing the way that the city tenders and purchases services and products to ensure that whenever possible, we're using local providers. We need to improve access to public transit so that workers have access to the jobs being created in the outside of the core areas of the downtown, like the Oak Park, Oneida, and Canesville areas, as well as easing the congestion for traffic. If it takes you longer to travel from Eagle Place to King George Road than it does to go to Hamilton, where is the incentive for people to shop in Brantford? I would like to expand the BIA programs to other areas of the city, as well as the performance and facade grant initiatives. These are great programs that will help smaller businesses to improve. Looking at Ward 5 specifically, the continuing issues of the downtown, parking, two-way traffic versus not, the growing student population that should be housed outside of the core are just a few of the things that I would like to see resolved. And of course, we need to resolve some of the other land issues with our neighbors, as I feel that these issues are also continuing to stifle our development. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And thank you to all of you for the first answers. Although there are no right or wrong answers, I do appreciate all of you that pander to the chamber. That's great. Our next question will be posed by Ben Strasser. Ben?
Our community faces a number of transportation issues, and the lack of progress on the BSAR, the Southern Access Route, is certainly at or close to the top of the list. It impacts not only the residents and businesses in Wards 1 and 5, but the entire community. So the question is, which of the routes currently being proposed do you support, and will you commit to voting for a specific route by December 2020, which is the end of the second year of your term?
Thanks, Ben. And we'll lead this one off with John O'Neill. John?
I think it's kind of funny the BSAR gets dragged out like a Christmas decoration during election periods. I actually played in a game at the old Lions Park before they closed it and moved to West Brant, and that was November 1970, and this has been going on since before then. I don't think the BSAR from 50 years ago is the plan we should be using today. I think it's out of date. I think if you're looking at Regional Road 18 and do a loop from Garden Ave over to Oak Park, possibly Oak Park could be done first, but chewing up a highway through the middle of a residential area and corrupting Mohawk Lake area doesn't seem like a reasonable alternative. And I think we need to be looking at a bigger project and looking at something outside the city on Regional 18, including the county and the Six Nations possibly in the project. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brian Van Tilburg. Brian.
Absolutely. I expect a lot of consensus on this. Look, the BSAR is such a non-starter. I put it on my list saying it's time to take it off the Transportation Master Plan. We're wasting a lot of staff's time going over it again and again and again. It's like beating your head against the wall. It's not happening, and we can't just oppose. We got to propose. So I propose that we go and finish the rest of the BSAR across Oak Park Road from Veterans Memorial. That will give us another bridge, a much-needed bridge, and allow people to go into the industrial park at Oak Park and Hardy Road. If you were in the flood area at the time, you'd realize all three of our bridges at one time were closed, and we were paralyzed from one side of the city to the other. This is something that at least is a win for the people in Ward 5. We'll get something out of it rather than having a road run over us. County Road 18 is also an alternative, but what I get from the Oak Park Road is that you'll get a relief of congestion on Clarence Street, you'll get a relief of congestion on Brant Ave, you will get a relief of congestion on Dalhousie Street to Clarence Street, and we will also reduce a number of the traffic coming down Wayne Gretzky Parkway at this period in time. That's what we can achieve, and that is a doable solution versus the one that is the 50-year non-doable solution. I'm running out of time, but I could go on about this one for a while.
Thanks, Brian. Mark Littell next. Mark?
As Brian just said, I think it's a non-starter for a lot of us around the room. As I've been knocking on doors in Eagle Place area, they're not interested in the BSAR. Are we interested in new and improved roads down there? For sure. When I go downtown, which I live in that area, the traffic down there is unbearable. The answer is to the south. County Road 18 and expanding there. It's going to take some money. We're going to need some help from the province. We're going to need some help, some work from our partners at Six Nations and Brant County, but that's the only answer we can have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff.
So without just saying I concur to everything that's just been said, I think it's going to be almost unanimous. The 50-year plan is my Spockian eyebrow went up. That is something that cannot happen. Of all the constituents that I've spoken with in Ward 5, which is what our mandate is and what's important, that cannot happen. County Road 18 is a reasonably viable, but I believe that we really need to get Six Nations involved, Brant County involved, and really plan this out properly, but definitely the 50-year plan cannot go through.
Thank you, Jeff. Dustin Starchuk. Dustin.
So I'm very fortunate to be able to, I've spent a lot of time with Councillor Carpenter over the last couple of years. So we share eye to eye on quite a few things, especially with County Road 18 and moving forward. Like, we have to realize that the decisions that we're making today are not going to come to fruition for another decade or so. So we need to start thinking about the automation of transportation and how that's going to look. So we need to figure out how are we going to ring road and loop around with the 50, 60,000 people that our province is also mandating the city of Brantford to take on over the next 25, 30 years. We need to loop around the city and remove that congestion. So Oak Road, County 18 to 424, that's going to end up coming down at some point in time in that extension. That's what we need to make decisions and be confident in those decisions to move forward. We can't just keep pushing it off or taking it out like Christmas lights, as John put it, right? So that's my process for this is to make a ring road and prepare for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Next, we'll go to Ian Carson.
I'm in agreement with pretty well everything. The old BSAR idea is done. Eagle Place doesn't want it. County Road 18, looping it all the way to Oak Park Road, I see as the solution. But there are other alternatives too that we're not really looking at. Simple things like a double turn lane off Dalhousie onto Brant to have to turn onto Colburn Street at the bridge. You double the amount of traffic. When you go downtown at 4:30, you're in a line, one lane of back right up. If you took that the second lane to be able to also turn, you'd get twice the flow through. Brant Ave is still going to be tied up because there's no way to throw more through and keep the parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Joshua Wall.
Okay, so this particular topic has come up at every one of the ward debates, and there have been a lot of really incredible answers. It touches on 4 different parts of my platform. There's education, communication, and infrastructure. So I conveniently printed off a map, which I'll gladly pass around if everyone would like to see. But it's very simple. If you're a resident of Ward 1, everyone knows where Shellard's Lane is. You'll then connect to Conklin Road. You'll turn off onto Highway 24, turn onto Highway 18 to connect to Colburn Street East to either go from there or to go over to Garden Ave to get onto the highway. The problem is that when you type any destination from Ward 1 to get out of town, GPS automatically takes you through the downtown core. Where infrastructure comes in is that we need to make that not the most route that Google's going to predict for people, or maybe Waze, or it's another form of technology that they're using. Downtown is made for the hustle and bustle of business and the leisurely activities of people who are coming down to shop and enjoy the history and the culture that is downtown Brantford. If we can work on making that route the fastest route, or at least advertising to people that that is the best route to take, then the residents of Ward 1 and people who are trying to get through our community will take that route. Education plays a very key factor here. Also, after knocking doors in the community, yes, everybody knows that the BSAR is a thing, everybody knows the BSAR exists, but nobody knows what's going on. Can somebody please tell the people of Ward 5 what's going on? If I was councillor, I'd do that.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer.
Hi. Yeah, the 50-year-old BSR is dead in the water. No one wants it. No one cares for it. I actually support the County Road 18 one, which isn't going to happen right away. It's going to take millions of dollars for that, too. And where's that coming from? We have to get it from the province and federal. But that's all I can say about that. It's still a long ways away.
Thanks, Dale. Catherine Kissinger. Catherine.
Thank you. I concur with everyone else in the room that the BSAR is is dead in the water, so to speak. The ideas of going through the Mohawk Lake areas just doesn't sit well with me. And I do agree that the County Road 18 option is a good one because, as my colleagues at the other side have indicated, our community is going to be growing. We have infill and all these other things playing on us that we have to expand our community. So by the time we get shovels in the ground and get this stuff moving, our community will have expanded to the point where County Road 18 may be not even the best option. We may need to go further beyond that. So I like the education and opportunities, as Joshua has pointed out, that we need to be educating people on alternate routes to get out of the town and different traffic. But also, I would like to see a better transportation master plan overall. Thank you.
Thank you. David.
Roads are perpetual maintenance projects, so anything that is built should be prepared to be developed around it so that it can pay for itself. There's a major problem with the price of servicing infrastructure in the city, as Richard Carpenter put it very recently, and large roads, fat expansion just does not work effectively. Second, in terms of in the city traffic planning, as Ian had mentioned, yeah, there are a lot of optimizations that could happen. You should totally be able to turn right from Brant Ave to St. Paul while the advanced green from St. Paul to Brant Ave is coming. Both sidewalks are closed. That should be moving. And as well, the two more points there, one of which is flashing yellows at night. There's no reason to be stopping. What are we fighting? Climate change, one idled engine at a time? That's funny. Anyway, last one is, it is funny. Last one is Lyft and Uber. I think that they are here and we're going to have a discussion on that. And I would, as well as buses, we've really got to look at that because I want to be a part of the first council that breaks even on transit. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We'll move to our next question being posed by Sandra Voss. Sandra.
The city's operating and capital budgets combined total more than $200 million. A private sector company with a similar budget would require its decision makers to have the skills and expertise necessary to make sound fiscal decisions. The question is, what past professional experience do you have that will best enable you to make sound decisions based on business principles that will benefit your constituents and the community at large?
Thank you. And we'll start with Brian Van Tilburg on this one. Brian?
When I ran the Steelworker Action Center previously, I had a shoestring budget and we had to make it work. You got to be thrifty with your money. I'm a pretty cheap guy at pretty much all the time. That's how I live my life. That being said, we do have a CAO, we do have general managers, and they do show us the 10-year capital plan of everything that's coming to us. Our job as councillors is to look at what's coming down the pipes and to be able to analyze what we need, say no to the things that we don't need, and other to cut down the budget. There are things that are in the budget every year that we do not need, and we need the willpower to do that. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Brian. Mark Littell next, please. Mark.
Thank you, Ms. Voss. I have owned my own business for the last almost 40 years. Started off in retail, and now I'm in a promotional products business. Give myself a small plug. I know how to manage cash flow. I know how to hire employees and work with staff in a teamwork effort. I also served as a counselor for 4 years. We had difficulty budgeting, but we managed to do it. We even had 1 year where we've had no increase to the budget. Didn't mean no increase to taxes, but no increase to the budget. So I think I have a fair amount of experience in dealing with cash flow and dealing with people and dealing with managing businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff Gressman. Jeff.
Thank you very much. So my career is fraud and forensic investigations. Everything that makes my Spockian eyebrow go up. I'm also was appointed by the Ontario government as part of the Trillium Foundation grant review team. We hand out and vet $15 million a quarter to nonprofit organizations. I was on the board for Standard Bread Canada, again, a volunteer board for 3 years. My entire career, my entire world is around prudency and vetting financial costs. There is always a need to spend some amount of money, which people may seem in some respects exorbitant, but the prudent side of it is to ensure that we have people who understand the process and understand the challenges of getting our service delivered, our product delivered, but in a cost-effective means for the taxpayer and for the infrastructure of the city. So that's the important side. I've got great experience on that, and hopefully my eyebrow will continue to go up for the next 4 years.
Thank you, Jeff. Dustin?
Awesome. Thank you. I look at this from two different perspectives for myself and in terms of answering the question in terms of what experience do I bring to the table. So for the last 15 years, I've worked basically in client services through a marketing agency on the client side as well as managing programs. So when you look at when you're managing an account and you have a project that you're working with, whether it be small or large, whatever that project management is, you have a budget that you have to meet. And you have to fulfill what that's going to be. If not, you need to go back to your client and say, why is this more or less, which works in the same terms. So on that side, I've been very prudent, as you say, in terms of trying to figure out some sort of effectiveness and cost savings on that end. On the other side of the scale, I also work for a nonprofit, a leading health nonprofit in Canada. So you want to talk about being accountable for every single dollar that is spent. It's a lean, mean machine. So on that aspect of dealing with the management side of things and always constantly in everything that you do on a daily basis, always looking at being cost effective, that's really what stands in terms of the experience that I can bring to the table from two different perspectives on how to manage the tax money that comes from everybody here, and then how to manage that on a client basis or as a project basis from the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Go to Ian Carson next.
Hi, as to the assets I bring, I've owned my own business for 31 years, managed 2 companies in 2 different cities. I'm president of 2 different nonprofits, and nonprofits have so little money all the time that you have to learn where to get it. The biggest one is part of the Hub initiative. We were given a 3-year pilot project. We turned it into 4 years and added Homedale to it as well, all on leveraging volunteer, business support, and all that. And it's working hard, line by line, finding the 25 cents here, $100 there, that will keep the city running well with lower taxes. Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. Joshua Wall?
So I was born into a household where my mother and father worked harder than almost anybody I'd ever imagined. And the reason we were able to have anything that we had was because they were very tight with their money and followed a very strict budget. The entrepreneurial spirit was put into me as a child, and the second I turned 18, I opened my own business, and I've worked for myself ever since. I've dedicated myself, my life, to a life of public service, and I have worked with many nonprofit organizations, and I have a special skill of being able to take absolutely nothing and turn it into something. The first time I was ever given any amount of money to be able to do something, I was able to do so very much, and I'm so very proud of some of the things that I've accomplished. When you work with a budget, it's very important that you spend every dime very thoroughly. And I think some people cannot differentiate the difference between price and cost. Price is what you pay, cost is what you pay over time. We need to start looking at what things cost and not the price. There's this terrible tradition of a tendering system where you go out and you buy from the lowest bidder. And I'm not necessarily sure that buying from the lowest bidder will get you the best cost. Maybe the best price, it looks good on paper and looks good in a headline. Oh, we only spent $10 million on this. But if it costs you $50 million over time, it's no good. I do have a proven track record of working within a budget. I have my entire life, and if I were councillor of Ward 5, I would definitely keep our budget balanced. Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer. Dale?
I managed my own business for over 20 years. I've managed other people's businesses for probably about 5 years of my life. And I'm thrifty, and I don't overspend. I own a liquidation business, so I have to be thrifty. And that's about all I can say. I know how to manage money because I know how to live within the means and not overspend.
Thank you, Dale. Catherine Kissinger.
Thank you. Yes, the city is a unique entity. It is indeed a large budget corporation, but it really should be run more like a nonprofit. People and businesses choose to settle here in the community, meaning that our taxpayer dollars should be treated in the same fashion and with the same respect as a donation. The city must administer those funds wisely. I have over 20 years of human resources experience. I have served as a chief steward of the union for 12 years and have extensive experience dealing with unions and grievances and things like that. I have big budget corporate experience from my years working with the company that owned Mac's convenience stores, and I currently sit on a number of boards of directors, and I've worked with a lot of nonprofit organizations. They've taught me how to live within the fickle demands of government from both a financial and a compliance perspective. As a small business owner, I know the importance of watching where every dime goes and making sure that we get a good return on our investments while improving the lives of our citizens. The time that I have spent serving on both of the economic development advisory committees for the city and the county have shown me how the city prioritizes their work and how we should go about doing things. And it's given me insight that I think I can bring to this council to serve you better. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, David?
I held my life insurance, mutual funds, and labor-sponsored funds license. I passed all of those tests the first try. Not many people do that. I did the H&R Block tax course, so finance is a strong suit. I also taught in public schools, high schools, and old age homes. I taught Taekwondo, and that was a big part of my life. But I know as a parent, having stayed at home and raised 3 children, the importance of saying no to pet projects is very important right now. It's not funny. I mean, if we can't develop the sewage processing to make money off of the new real estate, we have a problem. So, I know the importance of saying no. The previous council focused on a logo change. Golf course, clubhouse. These kinds of problems don't just show up. You need somebody there that's going to call a spade all the time. I'm your guy.
Thanks, David. Go to John O'Neill.
I opened my business in October 6, 1973, which was the first day of the Yom Kippur War, which led to an oil embargo. So I learned how to run a business right out of the gate in the middle of a recession. You develop a little bit of a skill set on how to survive tough times. I've seen ups and downs over the years and managed to survive for 45 years in what I consider to be a cutthroat business. Recently, I've been a member of the Economic Development Council, the Parking Task Force, the Garbage Task Force, and the BIA. Anecdotal story on the BIA, I came in 2015, the 2014 board put through a budget that had an error in it. It went through the finance department of the city council, and I approached Mr. Utley because this budget was going to reflect a $20,000 loss. And after a discussion with him, he realized that he would have to go to council and ask for an extra $20,000 because you can't run a deficit with the BIA. He talked to Millards, found out I was right, and the correction was made. I can bring that skill set to council. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We're now going to move to our next question, and Ben Strasser. Ben, if you could take this away, please.
Decisions made by municipal governments affect our day-to-day lives more than any other level of government. Municipalities fund infrastructure and provide core services such as roads and sewers. Our community has experienced a number of incidents in the last 12 months that have strained or outright compromised some of our key infrastructure. We are struggling with a lack of capacity to service growth, both new and infill. So the question is, how will you ensure that infrastructure is a priority for the next term of council so that we have the necessary core services that are critical to our continued success?
Thank you, Ben. And if we could have Mark Littell lead this off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was absolutely astounded when I found that there was a lack of sewer capacity. I'd been enlightened to it by a developer almost a year ago when he said that was happening. So the one thing I'd like to do first is I'd like to get an investigation into what has happened, who knew, and when they knew. We need to visit the infrastructure, the capital master plan, and look at the issues that we need to do. We can't do any new development. We've just taken on more property to the north of the city, north of Powerline Road. We're no longer able to service that because we don't have any sewage capacity. I was just down in Ward 5, and a guy had just bought a brand new house on 5th Ave, and he told me he couldn't put a bathroom in to to assist his expanding family. So we have a real problem here, and it needs to be looked at, and it's one of the big priorities that we need to do when the new council meets is to sit down and say, what can we do? What have we done wrong? Find out what wrong, and there has to be an investigation. I know that some members of council previously had said no investigation. We have to find out why, who knew and when, and we need to deal with this issue right away. 3 to 5 years is what I'm hearing for sewage capacity. Not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff Goreski. Jeff.
Thank you very much. I concur a fair bit with Mark. I mean, look, we've got not just sewer issues, we've got lead pipe issues. We've got substantial infrastructure concerns for existing residents of Ward 5, existing areas within the city that need to also be addressed. I agree, expansion is extremely important, but it is critical that we do not run into a Flint situation. We do not run into a situation where our current homeowners, tenants, residents are suffering medical issues or having other areas of concern based on infrastructure. As well, we need to formulate the proper plan of how we're going to grow the infrastructure for our growth plan for the next 3 to 5 years. That's a large task. That is not something that is quick. We need to communicate that to our constituents so that they understand the process that is going to entail, the cost it's going to entail, and we need to find a way to do it prudently, but with the safety of our constituents foremost.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm going to go to Dustin Starchuk next. Dustin.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying here. It's at a point now where when it comes to infrastructure, it's no different than dealing with maintenance on your car, obviously on a very large spectrum here. But at some point in time, if you don't put any sort of maintenance on your vehicle, it's going to break down. And this is not a Brantford issue. This is a North America. This is a first world problem that we're facing here, that infrastructure is breaking down all over the place. So what we need to do is we need to sit back and I'm sorry, Mark, but spending resources and time on an investigation, in my eye, is just not the proper way to look at this. I think it's more so let's sit down and put a plan together and be decisive on our plan and move forward with the things that this city needs appropriately and start chunking away at it one thing at a time. That's my standpoint on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Let's go to Ian Carson. Ian.
For the most part, infrastructure is one of our bigger problems for the whole city. We're going to have to stop buying new city hall, things like that. We need to put the money into building the infrastructure, new pipes, new sewers. Luckily, the lands to the west are gravity fed to the sewage treatment plant, so pumping stations aren't really needed in the west. So if we're developing west, we're better that way. But East Ward, we need new roads, new sewers, the lead pipes. My house is one of them. The city used to own right to the water meter. They then released that. No, right from the turnoff is now yours. And was that mainly because it was lead and they know it would have to be changed? It's now part of the homeowner to change. So we need to work on things like that to make our community safe for the homeowner. Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. Joshua Wall.
It's interesting because the question is how important would, if we were a councillor, make infrastructure a part of us as a councillor? If you think the statistic of 69% of business owners are only somewhat supported by the city, imagine if you asked the residents of Ward 5 how supported they felt by the city. Ward 5 has unfortunately been neglected in its infrastructure needs, and the revitalization of the infrastructure in Ward 5 is a paramount concern. It would be one of the major things that I talked about at every single council, and they said, Councilman Wall, you need to shut up about infrastructure. Every single door that I've knocked, they've talked about a concern that they've had. Infrastructure like, where are the stop signs? Where are the speed bumps? What about the wall at the back of the Grand River? It's not like the wall is going to get fixed and repaired and done tomorrow, but they just want to know what's going on. What about recycling? What about composting? What about solar paneled LED lights in our parks so they're not pitch black at night? What about affordable housing? What about the vagrancy and the homeless issue? What about a place for the litter and the garbage to go? It's all about education, communication, infrastructure. Those are the responsibilities of a councillor. Go out to the community, find out what they want done, and don't stop telling the city what they want done until it's done. Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer.
Yeah, the sewer thing's a really big problem, but for the infrastructure, from what I'm hearing, it's like 225 million or 250 million in deficit right now. So I don't know what they're doing with the money, overspending like normal and everything else except for the basic needs that we need. because buying new city hall buildings, giving away buildings, like that's things we could have been using that we had that we didn't need to buy new. It's just overspending, and it's caused a lack of maintenance on everything else. That's all I can say.
Thanks, Dale. Catherine Kissinger.
Thank you. So, as everyone in the room has indicated, the infrastructure of the city is the backbone of the city. We should be proactively repairing things, as Dustin indicated. We need to be doing preventive maintenance and making sure that there's a plan in place for that. For that preventive maintenance to happen, as well as keeping an eye on that capital budget to see, 4 or 5 years down the road, what decisions do we need to make today to ensure that those things keep going down the road. So as we've indicated in the BSAR conversation, decisions on our transportation infrastructure that are made today won't be implemented for probably 8 to 10 years by the time you get through all the processes. So my plan would be to make sure that those plans are in place and that the councillors are aware of them and make sure that they are developed. We need to focus on the needs and not the wants. Although the new city hall has been bandied around, I do actually think that is a need because of the relocation of Laurier and some other things. We need to stop wasting money on consultants. A city of our size should have requisite staff to do most of that work and spend our money on the infrastructure instead and put in place, as Ian has mentioned, the lead pipe program. I will guarantee you that that's why it was changed. I would like to also see some other key services brought in-house like garbage and other things. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. David Swanson.
I think I've been pretty clear tonight as to where I stand on the importance of that primary service. That's one of the things that you expect to be done well. Two main observations here. We've got to have less expensive development, and one of the best ways for the city to increase the income of a property or a given area of land without increasing the price of servicing it tremendously is to increase density. We've really got to put some thought into how much less expensive and more profitable those styles of buildings are for the city, because it goes a long way in keeping a lot of money here too. People that tend to live in buildings won't have cars. That's a lot of money that stays here. Last bit about infrastructure. I can't, somebody should be fired over that. If this was it is a for real corporation. It's the corporation, the city of Brantford. But somebody, if this was the corporate world, there would be some serious penalties here. I don't know how much time and effort we should spend on that, but that's a serious issue. The south side of Colburn Street, one last part about that. South side of Colburn Street was bought, demolished, and now does not generate any income tax for the city. Great decision. Not anymore.
Thanks, David. We'll move to John O'Neill next. John.
Well, just how I see things are the city itself is not going to see any sizable increase in revenue from the expansion from the county for at least 2 or 3 years. So we have to live on our existing tax base with nominal increases in revenue for the next 2 or 3 years. It means that we have to and also not do tax increases. So we have to look at the departments. I sort of did a brief look at some of these things, and some of them have enjoyed some sizable increases. IT was 17% in the last 3 budgets. Parks and Rec 21%. Operational Service 17.5%. The mayor's office was 22%. Maybe we should be refocusing our energies on infrastructure and not being able to afford some of these other things. The ability of the city to do infrastructure has to be at the top of the food chain. This example that we're seeing with Eagle Place, it can happen everywhere, and it needs to be dealt with immediately. And I think I'm the guy to push it. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll go to Brian Van Tilburg. Brian.
2 wards are going to demand a lot of infrastructure. That's Ward 1 and Ward 5. Ward 1 because it's all going to be new. Ward 5 because it's all old. We know some 10 years ago, the city had pitched to the federal government for infrastructure monies. That was all a go. and then the federal government didn't think that was flashy enough, and the monies went towards the Wayne Gretzky Center. So, you know, we get with one hand, we don't get with the other. We didn't get the infrastructure that we needed. We have a massive infrastructure deficit. It's why they put a 1.5% capital levy in order to address that infrastructure deficit. We also have hired a downtown coordinator. When people say we got to bring things in-house and hire staff, well, that's exactly what we've done. We're having a major project in the downtown. The downtown's going to get probably the biggest infrastructure change it's ever seen, and that'll be up and down Colburn Street. I'd also like to point out that with regards to Fifth Ave, anybody down Eagle Place knows Eagle Place hasn't changed a heck of a lot in many decades. This has been a problem as long as they've lived there. What happened was a previous council, just before I got involved, had decided to bring it in-house, hire someone and take a look at it. And that's the results that they came up with. Unfortunately, I've ran out of time, but discussion for another day.
Thanks, Brian. Now moving to our next question, Sandra Voss, please. Sandra.
Well, some issues are common to all wards and in the community at large. There are specific issues and challenges to Ward 5. What are your top priorities for Ward 5?
And we'll have Jeff Gretzky lead this one off. Jeff?
Thank you very much. So I think we've talked about several, and I've been animated about a couple. So BSAR we've already talked about. That is a top priority. Infrastructure, lead pipes, that is a huge priority. It's funny, when I speak with constituents, so I stand here or sit here and I voice my opinion. That's one opinion, and I live in the ward. And if you really want to see Ward 5, live on Dalhousie and try to find parking. That is tricky. So I've had a lot of constituents come to me and say that is a major issue, is parking downtown. Now, I've contributed to the city with about $140 in parking tickets, so you're very welcome. Let's put that towards infrastructure. So these are some of the issues. As we listen to more and more of our constituents, that is what's critically important. So I've listed my top that my constituents have told me and that I have experienced directly living in the ward. But there are many more. We have to continue to listen to our constituents and categorize them. We had one that talked about the bus routes on Sunday. He could not get to work without a 2-hour wait for a bus on a Sunday. And then coming home was a 3-hour wait. These are issues that need to be also addressed.
Thank you, Jeff. Dustin Starchuk. Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, I put out a 5-star plan, is what I call it, the 5-star plan for a reason. Those are the focuses of the conversations that I've had with many people over the last 3 years in my community. I used to live in East Ward, and that's where my consensus comes from. The biggest thing is public safety is one of the biggest concerns. We have housing problems. We have addiction problems. We have crime problems. I don't know, there was a statistic throwing around about 60% crime rate or something like that. The statistics can be skewed in many different ways. But those are the concerns that I look at in terms that need to be addressed in terms of getting regulations and figuring out what we're going to do in terms of bicycles and e-bikes. Are you a pedestrian or are you a cyclist? What are you? Make a decision, figure out what the rules are. You know, there's lots of things that we need to figure out in terms of the safety of the community, both in East Ward and downtown core and in Eagle Place. Transportation is my number 2 star on there, because if we don't move people, we can't have economic growth. And economic growth is number 3 on there. Every public safety issue typically is a social economic issue. So if we can get people to move properly, we can get skilled workforce here, and we can get people moving so we can have a safer community. Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin. Ian Carson.
Excuse me, I've been suffering from a head cold. But anyway, the other than infrastructure and that kind of stuff, homelessness and drug addiction and mental health are a high priority in Ward 5. Even on this weekend, driving up Dalhousie, I saw a column of smoke coming out of Shallow Creek. Some homeless had started a fire in the park and put some oily boards on it. We shouldn't really have people living in parks. We should be expanding social housing to try and find places for them to go. I know we're getting the living well system coming in, so that should be good. But things like East Ward has most of the methadone clinics in the city, and they're not spread everywhere. So everyone who needs it is congregating in our area, causing safety. There's fighting on Colburn Street by them all the time. We need to deal with these issues, and the only way to do that is an upstream look. Why is it happening? How to move them into treatment, rehab. We'll need a rehab center and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ian. Joshua Wall.
So the question is, what are my top priorities for Ward 5? I were the councillor for Ward 5. My top priority would be to listen to the constituents of Ward 5 and bring their concerns forward. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but when I decided I was going to run, I put together a platform that I'm very proud of that started with education, moved into communication, had revitalization and infrastructure, and environmental impact and sustainability. I strongly believe that any concern that any constituent of Ward 5 would bring to me would easily fall under one of those categories. If we had education and programming for everyone, it would get utilized. And if it was communicated directly to them, and I strongly believe that there are a lot of people, we have one of the lowest voter turnouts. We have the least amount of people actually participating in the democratic process. Their voices are not being heard. I want to be the councillor that gets through to everyone. Everyone has a cell phone or an email or a mailbox or a postal address, and all I want to do is find out how you want to have relevant information communicated to you and follow through with it. If we heard what people's concerns were, we could easily address them with revitalization and infrastructure, things like petty crime and homelessness and the environment and lighting and all the other concerns that they had. I feel like the actual concerns aren't coming up because the people aren't speaking out. So if you want to know more about my platform, check it out online. But I promise to be the councillor that's always there to listen and always going to bring your concerns to City Hall.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer.
My biggest things are for there to change is infrastructure, get that done and hopefully done the next year. Oh, sorry. My throat's kind of getting. But my biggest concerns was the crimes and the drugs in the neighborhood. We do have the methadone thing, but that's just a bit of a Band-Aid. We actually need to get some rehab centers going so they can actually get off instead of just having a Band-Aid. Talking to the people, I've learned that they don't like the speeding cars in their neighborhood. Every area actually had different concerns, which is East Ward had different concerns than Eagle Place. Eagle Place was more crimes. East Ward was more traffic. And I agree with Josh on that one. I said I wasn't going to do that, and Ian, because both of them had both valid points on that. Like, we need to listen to the people and what they want. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Catherine Kissinger.
Thank you. Well, I've been knocking on doors as well, and I've been listening to what the people are telling me, and ironically, it's not the BSAR and it's not the pumping station that they're talking to me about. They're talking to me about the drug issue, but they know that it's a complex issue. It's not just the drug use. It's the host of other things that go with it, the mental health issues, the homelessness and abject poverty that we are facing, isolation, as Josh has pointed out, a lack of education and communication in the community. And sometimes the misguided support systems, which were intended to help, but in actuality are hurting some of these problems. Property standards is a big thing in both wards, particularly in Eagle Place, but also in East Ward. We have a number of vacant lots and rundown places, and we seem to have a disproportionate number of neglectful landlords, I'll just be respectful, in those areas as compared to the other parts of the city. Those are the things that people are talking to me about. They want to know what I'm going to do when I get to council to help them fix that, how to enforce those property standards and make the city turn those lands that are sitting idle into something productive. Transportation is a huge effort, especially in Eagle Place, where it takes you 3 hours to get from some place to no place in a hurry. We need better access to the public transit, and that's just a no-brainer. So that's all I have, but that's what I'm saying is the people at the doors are telling me different things than the BSAR and the pumping station. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. We'll next move to David Swanson. David.
I like to focus on taxes and income for the corporate income. One more time. There we go. I like to talk about income for the corporation because that's the main focus right now. Our taxes are very high compared to our neighbors, and they're not going to get any less because we don't have any money and we haven't built the things we need to make more money. Anyway, so the Greenwich Mohawk site is up for redevelopment. The final report on that is not in, so I don't really see a lot of point in, making plans that may or may not be. Got to be reactive in that way. The dike wall has been a concern. I think that should be for the city too, because, if a group of lawyers decide to say, well, you were negligent in not fixing your wall, that could be exciting. And a tower and parking in the downtown. We've got the amalgamation of city corporate offices. So there's going to be a lot more people there, which is going to be great because more people means more money means more businesses. And the tower needs to be there because these students, which are fantastic, are gone for 4 months of the year. So we lose about a quarter of our spenders, but have full-time rent rates. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. John O'Neill?
I think my sense is that people in Ward 5 are treated like second cousins. Where does the pumping station not work? Where do they park all the ridiculous number of methadone clinics in East Ward? Holes in the dike of water pouring in. This is a consistency going on here. It all seems to be down in the south end of the city. The situation with the pumping station, though, I don't think there's a firing thing going on there, but I think the staff got thrown under the bus on that one. Staff did write reports. It went to the highest level, and it should have been dealt with 7 or 8 years ago. I think that's something that needs to be dealt with. But with regards to the police, the largest zone for patrolling in the city is the South Zone, which runs from Johnson Road all the way over to including Brant Park. I think it's about 8 to 9 square miles, which is about 3 to 4 square miles larger than any other police zone. So these are things that need to be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brian Van Tilburg. Brian?
Top priorities. Did you hear them all? Because most of the candidates have mentioned many, and there's many more. Mohawk Greenwich has to be developed. That's a big priority for our ward, as well as creating the Mohawk District Heritage Site, which in simple terms is taking the way that Shallow Creek Park's been rejuvenated and all the way down that canal, that dirty old canal, cleaned up down to Mohawk Park, and we're going to have one heck of a wonderful area. Everybody knows bus transit in our ward sucks. We fight hard to increase bus transit value and stop this cuts of transit and increase the fees. That doesn't work. And we've got a plan. It keeps getting hacked down. It's the hardest thing to fight for, but I think if people know that that's what we're fighting for, and a good ward mate will do that, we can push that bus transit forward. Addictions, rehab, homelessness. The rehab center is not going to open up for 18 months. Homelessness, at least we've got living well in the Homes First policy. No longer will somebody be taken out of a shelter early in the morning and sent out onto the streets. They can stay in a shelter. They will be fed. This is a 180 transition from what we had. East Ward, Eagle Place knows this situation more than anybody else. I know it more than anybody else. I'm out there early. Oh, man. Look, I've got Jolly Baron, the Brantford Motel that we know as a Jolly Baron. That thing has got to be corrected. Canadian Tire, we're going forward on that. And I've got a whole civic safety forum we can do.
Thank you, Brian. We're next going to move to Mark Littell. Mark?
And how do I follow that? So when I'm knocking on doors, the number one issue I'm hearing is taxes. The taxes seem to be out of control. They keep getting higher and higher, and the value for money, they don't feel that they're getting it. The other thing I'm hearing at the door is Colbert Street, south side of Colbert Street. One of my platforms, it's been completely ignored for the last 8 years. Needs to be developed as quickly as it can. Drugs and crime are an issue down there. It was alluded to with the property standards down there. There's a lot of vacant landlords, and I think we need to just work with communication on that. But the key issue, I think, and it's one of my major platforms, is the development of the south side of Colburn Street and getting back to basics with the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We'll move to our next question now from Ben Strasser. Ben?
The Grand River is one of our city's greatest natural resources. So the question is, how do you feel the Waterfront Master Plan can be utilized or modified to ensure the best development of the areas surrounding the river for our city's future prosperity?
Thank you, Ben. And we'll start with Dustin Starchuk on this one. Dustin?
Ben, thank you so much for asking this question. It is the vital point of our city. It is our identity. It's it's one of the things I find that Brantford lacks is identity. Ontario as a whole lacks identity. I really look at the waterfront and the master plan revitalizing. It's that spot. I look at the way of the future of, it's that Instagram place, that Snapchat spot that everybody wants to be at. I think of wonderful cities like Cincinnati and what they've done with their waterfront and revitalized their entire downtown core. In that plan, you look at how Calgary has utilized the Elbow and Prince Island in utilizing their waterfront. It is the place where everybody wants to be, and that's exactly how Brantford should be as well. Is it going to take money to create this? Yes. But we're also talking about economic development and driving tourism here, right? I'd love to have 1% of Toronto's tourism dollars. It's $88 million. How would you like to have that, right? So I'm so glad that you asked this question, because I think it is, especially for Ward 5, it is that spot that's going to, it is the spot that's going to revitalize this entire city. And that's that waterfront property, or if you want to call it waterfront property, but you know what I mean. Thanks.
Thank you, Dustin. Ian Carson?
The Waterfront Master Plan is a good start. Things like adding a condo tower beside the Y downtown, so there'd be outlooks from those condos onto the river. We have some problems with Parks and Rec fees. There was a day on the Grand Festival. City now has a grant of up to $1,000 to use city services. The festival raised enough money to get it, but they didn't have enough money to fundraise after they were paying for all their city services. So it was well attended, but it could have been much better. We need help in getting festivals along the river to bring more traffic, more tourists, and build a nicer stage on our river for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. Joshua Wall.
The beautiful Grand River, from which Brantford derives its name of Tynanaga's fording of the Grand River, needs to be absolutely utilized. Part of my career is brand ambassador for the Crew Real Estate, and we recently finished a fantastic project called 33 Jarvis, one-of-a-kind condo project being built on Jarvis Street. It's got these beautiful rooftop gardens, and one of the first questions we were asked by almost every buyer who was going to buy one was, can you see the river? Every little bit of water, even if a puddle on the side of the street can be the most amazing thing to a child. Our river is completely underutilized and underappreciated and undertaken care of. And if you talk to anybody, I mean, depending on who, they might mention they're afraid to go swim in it or whatever. I fished and swam in the Grand River a ton of times in my life. It's an amazing resource that is completely underutilized, and absolutely any plan moving forward by any council moving forward from here should take advantage of that. We should have places for people to dock their canoes, and should incentivize building and development around the river. I understand we're on a floodplain and a lot of stuff that is just way outside of my realm of possibility, but I do know one thing, and Dustin mentioned it. Tourism bucks are big bucks, and if we can take advantage of the Grand River and start bringing some of that tourism money here, I'll gladly spend it to make Brantford a better place.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer?
The Grand River is Brantford's best natural resource. The Grand River is Brantford's best natural resource. Like, what I would like to see is build more areas that people can picnic, have a barbecue or something where everybody can share, and see what a great city has to offer. That's all.
Thank you, Dale. Catherine Kissinger?
Thank you. I have looked briefly at the Waterfront Master Plan, and I'm very encouraged by the development proposals that are in it. And as the folks on the other side of the room are suggesting, tourism dollars is huge. The river has a number of natural attractions to it. The county has made a considerable amount of money promoting to the river and its features, and I think that it's time that Brantford get on the bandwagon, so to speak. My biggest question is, what's taking so long? We have a plan. Why are we not implementing it? So I would like to see that plan being expedited and put into place. And I am aware of how floodplains and things are impacted, and that there are some risks there that we will have to be very wary of, especially after last year's flood. But I think that in all, it's a doable plan, and it's time that we got it moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. David Swanson. David?
I think with the master plans that, again, really, with the master plans that have been continually edited, I don't think that right now taking an image of any of them and trying to make it happen and say this is what we got to do is really what we need to do. Dustin, you mentioned people lack identity. I don't lack identity. I know who I am. Thank you. Grand River Development. So we've got kayaks and rafting, and those are very exciting, natural, and profitable businesses that are operated here. That how do you keep something natural and still make money off of it? Again, deficit here. We can't go spending a ton of money on parks because they don't generate any money. So the best way to make money off of a river or off of a waterway that has world-renowned fishing, or at least, around this area into Michigan, is see what we can do to make it a spawning river, a spawning lake. How can we do the organic, do the best job here and keep it a natural place without losing a ton of money, because we can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. John O'Neill.
I'll try to see how the Waterfront Master Plan and how we could integrate it into Ward 5. It's a great plan, great ideas. The river's a natural asset, of course. Everyone recognizes that. Also, we probably won't be seeing the funding to support a lot of development of this plan for probably 3 years. In the meantime, I think the city might be wise to hold on to the old Lions Park in Eagle Place to incorporate it as part of the master plan in the future, and maybe not release it for development for condos or houses at this time. I think it would be prudent just to hold on to it and see what we can come up with when we do have the money to actually execute a master plan for the waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brian Van Tilburg.
Waterfront Master Plan is one of the best things the city council prior to us ever did. I was one of the activists working with Margaret Chesney Smith as she was moving forward on the Waterfront Master Plan. If you want to know some of the success of the Waterfront Master Plan, just take a walk down Hardy Road. Hardy Road remains beautiful because of the Waterfront Master Plan. Monies that was put in the Waterfront Master Plan allows the city to buy properties along the riverfront. And we've done that this term. In fact, a big chunk of property was purchased on Hardy Road. Again, that actually brings us value. It creates a different quality of life, which is what other people coming to this city see. They see a gorgeous river. That is our jewel, and we need to protect it. Possibly the only flaw in that Waterfront Master Plan is that it does say something like putting an apartment building where the Lions Park, the water, oh my gosh, Earl Haig is. And that is ridiculous, a non-starter, and that's why I fought against it. But my gosh, we have a great Waterfront Master Plan. 40,000 canoeists go down our river. 40,000, and there's more coming. We need to provide them with access. All those things are listed in the Waterfront Master Plan. We put money into it, and it works. Probably one of the best things the previous council ever did, and we just need to keep putting money and resources toward it, and we'll have a beautiful.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we'll move to Mark Littell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Heritage Grand River is what we drink our water from. We bath in it. We wash our cars. We wash our clothes in it. It's very important. The master plan was written in 2008, 2009, and I was part of the council. And then in 2010, we dedicated $350,000 a year for institution of the master plan. Since then, with exceptions, I believe that it's become what I call a shelf study. So it's gathering dust in council's office, or it's underneath the desk to level the desk. We need to get back and visit it. We have done some parts to it. The Northwest purchasing that land was significant, but one of the major things that especially affects Ward 5 is the downtown area right at Brant's Crossing to be developed. All the recommendations are in there. We need to visit that right away, start to use the $350,000 a year of casino money that we have dedicated to the institution of the Waterfront Master Plan, and to get started, to get the downtown going, to get the Eagle Place area going with the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff Gresky. Jeff?
Thank you very much. So I've taken a look at the master plan. I think there's a lot of work that's been put into it. So I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater, with the river water. But I will suggest two things. Number one is I believe that we need to relook at it in aspects of private involvement. I think that there is an opportunity there to keep our beautiful tourism side and improve that. And I will tell you something, is not easy to fish on the Grand. I can't catch a cold. So, but it is important to have that tourism, but it is also important to have private input. We need development downtown. We need, beyond our tax dollars from our constituents, we need the private sector to get more heavily involved. I think there is room for that in the master plan. So I think it needs to be looked at.
So thank you, Jeff. We'll now move to our next question, and Senator Voss. Senator.
The role of a city councillor is demanding and requires an in-depth knowledge of everything from potholes to the city's strategic plan. Tell us why you would be the best person for this job.
And we'll start with Ian Carson on this one. Ian.
Thank you very much. For the last 8 years, I've been involved with the East Ward Echo Place Neighborhood Association, and some involvement with the Eagle Place Neighborhood Association. You get everything from the community. Once you're out there, seen as a community person, they'll tell you the cat's up the tree, where do we get help? I know a lot of people in the city now that if I don't know where to get it, someone I know will know where. So it's one phone call, it gets to the right person. So then you can get the answers. Things like who to call for a new recycling bin and things like that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. Joshua Wall.
I've mentioned it before, but it bears repeating, specifically because we're being asked. I'm already a known community advocate, and I've built a reputation on being somebody that you can come to if you want to get a message out to the people. I'm very good as a public speaker, and I'm very well known for my marketing skills. I want to make Brantford a landmark destination so that people come from all over the world to live here, to shop here, to eat here, to fish here, to just show it off to their friends and families. There are so many events, and this city is just filled to the brim with absolutely incredible features that can be found nowhere else in the world. It's one of the oldest cities in our entire country, and its First Nations history goes back to the dawn of time. It's an absolutely incredibly vibrant area that needs to have someone who's going to act as a representative to not only take the concerns of the people and make sure that they're met, but to also promote this city to the rest of the world. If we do that, we're going to have the best city in Canada. I want to be a part of that. I want you guys to join me.
Thanks, Joshua. Dale Beamer. Dale?
Hi, like I said before, I live in the ward. I have business in the ward, so I know what ward normally wants. Not everybody, because you can't talk to everybody at once. But I would like them to be able to talk to me. To get things done. Yesterday I didn't know how to get this one thing done, so I knew the person that knew how to get it done. So I went over and asked him how it got done, like for the phone number for to get the needles removed from this property. And that's why I think I would be best thing. If I don't know how to do it, I will figure out how to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Catherine Kissinger.
Thank you. I have been member of both the city and the county's economic development committees from 2012 to 2016. I was the city's liaison member to the county. I got extensive knowledge of the boundary transfers and zoning and things like that were going on. I currently sit on the Elder Abuse Awareness and the Graduate Brantford committees through the city, as well as the Downtown Performance Grants Initiatives Committee with Dustin. I currently co-chair the Education Works Alliance Committee out of the Workforce Planning Board. I'm also a member of the Chamber of Commerce's Education Committee. I'm the secretary for the board for Habitat for Humanity Brant. I'm also a part-time teacher at Conestoga. But in addition to that, I'm a small business owner and a human resources expert with over 20 years of experience in employment law and health and safety. I have a lot of experience, both personally and professionally, that would serve this council very, very well. I can read a budget. I can understand when things are going wrong, and as Mr. O'Neill says, find those little blips that nobody else seems to find. I'm very capable of making tough decisions, and especially the decisions that not everybody wants to hear sometimes, but that are in need and must be made. So that is why I feel that I'm the best person for you for council. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. David Swanson?
I think everybody that has owned a business has earned, part of what you need to be able to do to be here, because you have to service people. And in order to be in the service industry and do it effectively, you have to have repeat customers. So I have a lot of experience in that. I'm born and raised here, and I've been very blessed to do quite a bit of travel in my time. And I can tell you that it doesn't matter where you are. It matters how much money you have in your pocket and who you are with. And this town has a lot of stuff. I mean, we've got world-class restaurants with the old schoolhouse. The Queen dined there. She did. We've got bowling. We've got pool. We've got great concerts when they can happen. And a lot of serious local culture here. I am one of the best people to manage those responsibilities because they're what I really, really like to do. I enjoy finance. I enjoy picking out and putting together two objects that may not want to go together, but I can make those go together. And yes, that's why. Thank you.
Thank you, David. John O'Neill?
Can I just have the question repeated, please?
Tell us why you would be the best person for the job.
Well, I believe that the job requires a certain amount of passion. That I don't lack. I've always been connected to the south end of the city from the day I was born till today. I see it as a sense of pride and responsibility now to show the leadership to try and make life improvements for all of the citizens in the south end of the city. I think it is something that I would get a great deal of enjoyment and a great deal of satisfaction from doing the best job possible for the people of Ward 5. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brian Van Tilburg?
Yeah, you've got to have the passion and you've got to want to do it. You've got to love this job. The demands are incredible. I take calls at 2 a.m. and sometimes they're pretty surprised by it. You've got to be a people person and you got to realize that, yeah, we're dealing with things as small as a pothole and a chipped sidewalk to the strategic master plan of how the whole city's going to work and how our transportation goes. And you've got to want to learn it and do it all. And I enjoy it thoroughly and I enjoy communicating with the people. There's nothing better when you have gone to bat for people and you come out with something that is really tangible and good and that you can wear and say that, you know what, it may not have made the headlines, it may not have been something that was out there, but it made me feel good. And it made me know that I've helped somebody and I've helped someone in the community and their life has changed. And man, is that ever a powerful motivator for all the other stuff that you might have to put through. That's what keeps me doing it. You get those little things and that is literally what it is. Sometimes you feel like you've really made a difference in some individual's life. And I love my neighborhoods. I love canvassing, and I'll leave it at that. But I love doing this job.
Thanks, Brian. Mark Littell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As my flyer says that I was warned not to hold up, experience, enthusiasm, and energy. I believe I showed that when I was a counselor, not afraid to take on a challenge, not afraid to take on people that had adverse opinions, but to get things done. I think the south side of Coburn was an example of that. As a small business owner, I know how to manage cash flow. I know how to run the business. I know how that we shouldn't be spending more than we're taking in, and that's what the city's been doing in the last 8 years, is spending a lot more than they're taking in. I've worked with members of the community. As I said before, I was president of Habitat. I was president of the Food Bank, Christmas Baskets, Airport Commission. I've worked with all members of all organizations in the community to prove myself. So I think I would be a good choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff.
Thank you very much. So as I look around the room and all of us share the, have we lived in Ward 5? Have we gone through opening a business? Have we done all of it? Everybody is going to put your hand up. So here's my position. I'm not going to be the best person. I am going to be one of the two best people that get elected to this position. That's why it says Team Goreski. Are we going to know everything about potholes to infrastructure to everything? Not on your life. And anyone who says they are, you're full of crap. It's not going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. The two elected officials are going to represent the ward to the best of their ability and learn on the job different areas and different things that affect our ward. The thing that we have to be is prudent. That's the key element. Teamwork and prudency. We have to ensure that spending is reasonable, defensible, and in the best interest of Ward 5. We fight for that as a team, and I'm very happy to whoever else gets elected that we form that team. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, if we can please hold applause and phones from the crowd. Next, we'll go to Dustin Starchuk.
Mark,
Dustin.
you said that before. How do I follow this, right? Listen, there's one thing that I'm not very good at, and that's humble brags. I'm not the best at it, so but I'll kind of try here. So first and foremost, what makes me great to be a part of this job, I'm going to have to say I've had fantastic mentorship with Councillor Carpenter for the last 3 years. He is one fantastic resource to have to plug into in the city, and I'm very fortunate to have him in that guidance for one thing. So that's one thing. I'm not all things to all people, and I'm not going to plan to be, and I'm not going to try to be. I'm good at what I do, and that's building relationships and bridging the gap. I'm good with being great at mediation, and I'm fantastic at putting plans in places and putting equations in places to map things together to be a part of a bigger picture. So it's fantastic. I know Catherine mentioned before about, I haven't even mentioned that I even chair the DPAC committee in the city, right? It's just not something that's there. So I think if there's anything that I'm really good at that's going to put myself ahead of this fantastic scale here, because I'm very good at making prompt, committed decisions, even if I have to eat crow. Plain and simple.
Thanks, Dustin. Move to the next question. Ben, please.
Brantford's overall crime rate is significantly higher than the provincial average and could deter growth and investment. The question is, how can the municipality work with police services and other organizations to reduce this number?
Thank you. And leading us off with this one, Joshua Wall, please. Josh.
So I've addressed this in my platform, but I think the first thing we need to do is reduce crime in the long term is education. Every single human being that lives in our country should have a trade they're proud of, whether they're a musician or a carpenter or a salesman or any of the other million professions that are out there. There are way too many citizens of this country who have fallen through the cracks, and there is a disproportionate amount of those people among Brantfordians. If we can put funding, whether it's private or government funding, into these programs, we won't have crime because people will be too busy working. If we want an immediate solution, because I'm not a fan of police enforcement, but police presence is huge. Go downtown. Tell me how long it is before you see a police officer drive by unless there's an incident happening. We need police presence in Ward 5, in Eagle Place, in East Ward, and downtown. It's a proven fact. People don't do bad things when somebody's watching, and they definitely don't do bad things when the police are around the corner. I don't think that we should just be throwing people in jail. I think we should be doing rehabilitation. And I think that if we have a strong sense of education that's communicated to the people, we can significantly reduce crime. And in the meantime, maybe we could just get more police officers on the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Dale Beamer? Dale?
Yeah, my thing is we do need more police presence, but the cost is up there. The police are overwhelmed already. But what we can do involved in that is what I talked about with other people is more community patrol. Like they got that COPS program in other areas. We just need more presence of it. Like more presence of that will actually lessen the crimes. And like Josh said, arresting them is not doing anything because a lot of it is to do with the drugs. So none of it's going to happen until we get the Band-Aid solution up there and get rehab centers open so they can actually get help off the drugs. They can get help, get schooling for their trade, and then they're be better at the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Catherine Kissinger.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question?
How can the municipality work with police services and other organizations to reduce this number? And the initial was Brantford's overall crime rate is significantly higher than the provincial average and could deter growth and investment.
Okay, yeah. So I believe that it is a multifaceted approach, that we do need more police presence in certain areas of the city for sure, but that is also a Band-Aid solution. We do need to be working with partner organizations like St. Leonard's and Brant Skills and other places to increase access to education and training. We need to access better access to housing, which will help to curb some of the reasons why people are committing crimes. We have to get back to the why, right? Why are they committing the crime? What is it that we need to look at there? We need to definitely review the police budget and the way that the policing is done in the community. I think that it does need to be a lot more proactive. There has been a lot, especially in the East Ward area, Charlie Ward Park area, there has been a lot of improvement, and I think that's a great start. And those types of programs are what we definitely need to improve on. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. David Swanson?
The best way to reduce crime is to reduce the amount of laws. It's not a joke. I mean, it could be. So cannabis is about to come into everybody being able to do that in the light of day. The fentanyl crisis of people getting not what they paid for is entirely because it's illegal. One of the most dangerous aspects of illegal activity is the unsafety of it, because you know people are still going to want to use certain substances at certain times. So one of the best ways to reduce that is to, deal with that problem in an effective way. And I think we're going in that direction. The second half is always got to be employment. There is nothing more freeing for a person than having independence. And as far as I've heard, I'm the only one here that brought up the mega recycle play, because that's huge, and that's going to help out the community a lot. I think that people that are down and want to have a criminal lifestyle, and some of those people do, some of those people you can't do anything. It's sad. But, focusing on reducing the increasing safety and access to employment. Thank you.
Thank you, David. John O'Neill?
Yeah, the crime rate is, according to the reports, is higher than the average. The city itself is ranked close to 300th in the best place to live. We have a number one ranking for overdose entrance to the emergency in the hospitals. And at the same time as all that's going on, the police have been held to a 2% average increase in budget for the last 3 years. I suspect we might be looking at a little bit more money for the police and infrastructure. It needs to be looked at Other thing, especially for the south end, we have the largest police patrol zone in the city. West Brant, they need to divide West Brant out to make it a zone and make the basically cut it in half, because we're the only zone that's covers from Johnson Road to Brant Park and cut in half with the river. As the city keeps growing, which is in the south end, the area in our police patrol zone just gets bigger, and we get the same number of squad cars as the other three zones. So I think money that needs to be looked at on the budget, and it's going to be a tough budget session to try and deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we move to Brian Van Tilburg. Brian?
So happy to hear that Charlie Ward Park area was mentioned. Successful policing, the community policing that was put in place in that area did wonders. If you want to know how to, it's not putting police on the streets, it's putting them in the community. And man, what a difference. And as quick as a neighborhood can fall, I was surprised at how quickly one could rebuild. This is amazing. We need more of this. I think probably every candidate might be lobbied on how you're supposed to cut the police services budget because it's always the highest. No, we need to give them the tools, the resources, and the manpower to do the job. And if they can do community policing, and I can have more in Eastward and more in Eagle Place, more beat cops in the downtown instead of taking away when they need somebody else, we will be on the right path. That visible presence makes a difference. I also want to say it's not how many police you have. Sometimes it's how they get deployed. They get tied up down in the hospital. So we have a diversion program. That diversion program has trained people from St. Leonard's with a social background in order to relieve the police when they get to the hospitals, and the police can come back and be on the streets after they do the reports. Citizens on patrol. Hey, these are your neighborhoods, they're our neighborhoods. Be out there, be seen, be trained. It will make a difference. All your documentation goes forward. And we all know that.
Thanks again, Brian. Well, next move to Mark Littell. Mark?
If you want me to give him 5 of my seconds. With a $33 million budget, our taxes out of control, it's hard to throw more money at the police. It really is. And, one of the issues that's involved there is the WSIB, the number of officers that are on the WSIB now. And I know that issue is being looked at. I've been told about that. But, it directly affects Ward 5. It directly affects the downtown area, because one of the things I wanted to see was 2 full-time beat cops downtown, because people don't do drugs where there's police around, right? And I think Catherine had alluded to that. The other thing that we could be looking at doing is getting bylaw officers, hiring more bylaw officers. They're not the cost of a sworn police officer, and the bylaw officer would be able to alleviate some of the responsibilities of the policeman. So the police is dealing with crime, not with the parked car illegally. So there are alternatives there, but I'm not in support of raising the budget for policing at this time.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we'll go to Jeff Goreski. Jeff?
Thank you very much. We're not going to get rid of crime. I mean, for a living, this is what I do. Fraud investigations, right? Anti-money laundering, the whole gamut. I even get into the areas of human trafficking. I mean, it's a very bad slope. It is not just Brantford. What would be interesting is to see the statistic broken down by region, by type of crime, by thing. We all sit here and we talk about certain areas, Eagle Place and East Ward and downtown. I will tell you, living on Dalhousie, I will tell you when recycling's out, so I'm there one morning and some guys there grabbing the cans out of the recycling. So I go up to him and I say, what does that get you? You know what he told me? He said, enough for breakfast. So we went to Tim Hortons, I got him a breakfast, we chatted a bit more. We have to understand what the crime is, where the areas need to be enforced better. We know some of it, but I would really like to see those statistics broken down. Then we can determine what community policing can do, what added enforcement can do, what other areas can be. This is a very complex issue. The safety is paramount, but it is a complex issue. It is not just about added officers, I agree, but it is important that we understand what the makeup is.
Thanks, Jeff. Dustin Starchuk. Dustin?
All right, we can do a seminar on this. So I'm going to try and be as fast as possible. So first of all, that's the one thing I would like. The statistics that's being thrown around of being the largest part of crime is based off of us as a region with the county, Six Nations, and the three combined together. So it'd be interesting to see where that breakdown is. The question is to work with the police. What can we do to work with the police? One of the things is merging resources and utilizing police with the city and the county. I think that's a huge win for everybody in that aspect. The biggest thing that I just want to bring up, and as part of like the whole process of my entire platform, is that crime essentially is a social economic problem, right? Public safety is the number one key. If you work here with the head, right, the choices we make dictate the lives we lead. If we work with the mental health issues that we have, that will start to progress in a different area. If we're able to have transportation and move people around, it will create economic stimulation for our city. Investment will come in. People will start to feel more self-worth. We'll have jobs. They'll get off assistance, and the snowball goes into there. And ultimately, at the end of the day, as Brian said, once you have all these things together, you create community engagement that people feel proud, that want to be a part of. And I think that's where we need to tackle things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Go to Ian Carson next. Ian?
Okay, police presence is very important. Big problem with it is the cost. At Busker Fest, when they wanted to put 2 officers at Busker Fest, it's $165 an officer to have an hour to have an officer in a car there. What we need to do is more like the special constables. They may be taking police services college course. So now you're paying them $25 an hour, bring the cost down. Charlie Ward Park, Officer Chad is awesome. He provides his number to direct. The Colburn Street hotel that has the emergency housing in it, which always had problems. Officer Chad did an overview of it, provided the number direct call for the owner of the hotel. Calls from the police at the hotel went down 80%. So community supported policing is what we need. And there's a Block Watch app coming from the city as well. It should be out sometime in the spring. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. And that's all the time we have for questions for tonight. Thank you again to Ben and Sandra for all their hard work and questions tonight. We are now going to move into the closing remarks from each of the candidates, and we'll go in reverse order from the way we opened. So if we could start with Dale Beamer, and I'll remind everybody we've got 1 minute for comments. Dale.
Okay, I'm hoping for your vote for Ward 5 for safety community. Safer community. Like, I want a safe community for my 3 girls I live in there. Instead of going down the street, finding needles all the time. Like, police presence is like a very good thing for that and everything. But we do need to work as a community all together. So I'm hoping for your, at least for one of your votes. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. We'll go to Joshua Wall next. Joshua.
There will always be a need to focus on and encourage the growth and preservation of art, history, business, and culture in Ward 5. I will champion for the unheard, and I will promote our vibrant community to the world. We are in the midst of a renaissance of growth and prosperity, and our city is becoming more culturally diverse than ever before. The Century buildings of Ward 5 are being renovated and restored, and a young and energetic generation of first-time homebuyers and business owners are flocking to the economically priced properties that are the perfect spot to start something new. Ward 5 has undergone significant change, yet there is still so much more we have to do. Together, we can be an integral part of the overwhelming reclamation of our community. Do not simply watch, but lend a hand, as over the next decade, our city will become a beacon for technology, entrepreneurialism, and a distinct arts and culture nucleus, the likes of which every citizen can be proud. Every major city began and fosters a successful core. I will champion for ours, and I will take part. On October 22nd, vote Joshua Wall for Ward 5.
Thank you, Joshua. Ian Carson, please.
Hi. I'm working for the last 4 years to make a healthy, safe, vibrant East Ward. I'm looking for support from viewers and people in the audience and the rest of the community to be the counselor to keep working on this with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. We'll move to Dustin Starchuk next. Dustin?
Yeah, I definitely just want to say thank you so much to all the supporters, my friends and my family, and more importantly, my two little fidgets at home that are out there slinging signs and postcards with me. I can't do it without them, so I appreciate them very much. I believe in doing the right thing is always the right thing to do, plain and simple. It's about integrity. It's about being authentic and being genuine. And that's who I am. You get what you get. Like I said, I'm not going to be all things to all people. I'm not going to be the most popular person. I'm not going to have the most popular, make the most popular decisions, but I'm committed to making decisions to move our city forward in the right direction that it needs to go. So October 22nd, vote Starchuk right here. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dustin. We'll go to Jeff Goreski next. Jeff.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I'm honored to be in this room tonight debating with my fellow colleagues here. I am certainly appreciative to the audience to put up with my dulcet tones for 2 hours. God bless you. And I certainly look forward to being a member of the team that supports Ward 5 for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll now move to Mark Littell. Mark.
Mr. Chair, I have enjoyed the discussion here tonight. Not much debate, but discussion. Prior to putting together my platform, I met with the residents of Ward 5 to hear some of their concerns, and not just the Eagle Place part, but I called the north side of Colburn and the south side of Colburn Street. And the 5 things that they have concerns about, number 1 is the high taxation that we continue to get. So we have to look at that. Number 2, infrastructure is a real concern to everybody, the sewer problem specifically. Number 3, the lead pipe replacement program, which was introduced in 2008, has been largely ignored. There's still 2,500 homes, and it affects their drinking water on a regular basis. Number 4, the Waterfront Master Plan. I alluded to that in my discussion. And the last one was the downtown revitalization. To get going on the south side of Colburn Street, the two-way conversion, and also the waterfront area there to make that in conjunction with the Waterfront Master Plan. So I look forward to being a councilor.
Thank you, Mark. And we'll move to Brian Van Tilburg next. Brian?
I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting the event. Those in the crowd that came out and spent your evening here, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody that's here tonight that is a candidate that's been going to the doors and listening about our ward. That is where you get the most learning and the most value. I just want to say, look, I've worked very hard for the ward. I'm passionate about the ward. Everything that's been said tonight is all about our ward, and I appreciate that's why we have these forums, so we can hear what is going on. I would appreciate if you would vote for me again and honor me with a second term, and select me with a ward mate. Look at the caliber of people we're here tonight. I didn't know half of them. They're quite amazing. I would be happy to work with any of them. You choose who you want, and I can work together with anybody. We could have.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we'll move to John O'Neill. John?
Chamber and Rogers for putting this on, and all the people that took this event at home. I really have the passion. I want to do the job. I don't think we can add any more to the subjects that are already been mentioned. I do have a little bit that's off topic. A man that has moved back to Brantford, has been away for 40 years, was involved in the football program in the south end of the city. He grew up in Eastbourne and worked in Eagle Place for teams and the city of Brantford. His name's Bob Rotz, and all the players that were involved with him are welcome to Alexander's on November 3rd, and you can come back and meet Rotzy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll move to David Swanson next. David.
All right. So I've been walking around the community and having a lot of fun with that, even last night. And I've closed 20% of my cold calls with signs on that platform of we've spent way too much money. We've spent way too much money. And 2 people up here, you had a hand in that. You signed some contract. So if you want somebody that's going to take this corporation and treat it like a corporation and deliver, maybe the first dividend check Wouldn't that be exciting to get a dividend check? How about breaking even on transportation? On those and the recycling and the jobs plan, that closes 20% of households in the ward. And I'm looking forward to using all of my skills effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Catherine Kissinger. Catherine.
Thank you very much. I'm well aware of the key areas affecting our ward and the issues that are affecting our city. I want to bring the voices of the marginalized and the forgotten back to this table. Our city council has lacked in diversity for a number of years, and thanks to Cheryl Antosky for being the only female on our council for a number of years, I would like to change that. We need to bring these voices back. I'm not afraid to tackle the big issues and the difficult issues and to make those decisions. And I certainly have the skill set and the requisite knowledge that will be of use to this, to council and to the city and to the ward. I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight to watch us here personally in council and who's watching at home. I promise you that if you invest a vote in Catherine Kissinger, your vote will not be wasted. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our candidates that are with us tonight, and thank you for your commitment to our community and specifically Ward 5. There's definitely a lot of passion around the room, and Ward 5, the fighting fifth's in good hands. I'm sure tonight's discussion will also greatly help the residents of Brantford and specifically Ward 5. I'd invite the residents watching at home, if they have any more questions, you've heard your candidates, invite you to reach out to them personally to get more information. Please do so and exercise your right to vote on the 22nd. I'd like to also thank Rogers for partnering with the Chamber of Commerce on these debates, and would like to remind everybody here and at home that if you missed any of the Wards 1 through 4 debates, they are being aired on the Rogers YouTube channel. You can go back and watch those as well as this one leading up to the debate. The mayoral candidates debate will take place next week on October 11th and again be rebroadcasted through the Rogers YouTube channels. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you for our candidates being with us and your commitment to the community. And again, let's have everybody go out and vote on October 22nd. Thank you and good night.